welcome to Films with the Woman in My Life. My name is Brennan, and joining me tonight is Mama Kay.
It's me, Mama Kay, just me.
And tonight we're doing a big blockbuster, perhaps. Maybe one of those prestige pictures I've been talking about for months. No, we're going to do Ticket to Paradise, the new romantic comedy starring 60-year-old George Clooney and mid-50s Julia Roberts, I'm guessing. I'm just ballparking. I don't know their ages. 61. And what's the other one? 55.
I'd say she's like 54, 55.
Look at that. I didn't even look. No one's going to believe me, though, because it's audio. This stars those two people, as well as Caitlin Dever and Billy Lord, both from Booksmart, and Maxime Boutier and Lucas Bravo, and then 150 extras. It's a romantic comedy film. Okay, you know more about this kind of stuff than I do. Do you know anything going in?
Yeah, I mean, the previews were all over the place here, so the demographic is where I live, I guess. And I wanted to see this, but because I see so many movies, I tend to wait for things that I want to see that I guess I don't really want to see them that bad if I don't go out to see them. That aren't a blockbuster, I guess. If it's a blockbuster or something big, I want to see it on the big screen. But something like this, I would have probably waited for. But I was excited to see it because we don't do things like rom-coms very much, and I can't remember the last time I actually saw a rom-com at the movies. I mean, I've seen some girl, chick flick kind of stuff, but not like a traditional rom-com, which is what this is. I wasn't sure they made them anymore.
A man and his ex-wife race to Bali, Indonesia to stop their daughter from marrying a seaweed farmer. As they desperately try to sabotage the wedding, the bickering duo soon find themselves rekindling old feelings that once made them happy together. It's got a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics, and with the audience, it is sitting at 88%. So, a crowd pleaser. It's also if we talk about the economics at all, it's got a $60 million budget, but it's already made back over $100 million, 116 as of this recording. So,
it must have been a worldwide release then.
I see UK and US releases, Australia.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
The English-speaking major hubs, but I haven't seen anything on the other. But yeah, that's the star power. We could talk all about the economics at some point, I'm sure. That's all you need to know about Ticket to Paradise in theaters, and it will be on Peacock in 45 days from the release. I see that here as noted. So films are doing that a lot more now. They'll come out on Peacock, HBO Max, Amazon, somewhere within the release. The release range has gotten shorter. And we're going to spoil it here now because there's so much to spoil. You really just...
I feel like you spoil it by just reading out what the description is.
The twists, the turns that we're about to go on. It's,
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, so we're going to spoil it here and now. And the movie centers on David and Georgia Cotton. They were formerly married long ago, 20-something years ago. It sounds like
25 years ago.
Yeah. And they bicker with each other as their daughter graduates law school, and she goes out on a vacation with her friend, who is Billy Lord, and the daughter is Caitlin Dever, just so you know which one's which. Not that you'd be surprised which is which. And they're spending time in Bali, and Caitlin, who plays a character named Lily, meets a seaweed farmer, and they fall in love very quickly, and within 37 days, they're engaged. And David and Georgia don't agree on much of anything. They don't agree on... they hate each other. They don't get along. But the one thing they agree on in this case is that this marriage is a mistake. They don't want her to make their daughter to make the same mistake they did. So they're going to team up together to try to sabotage this wedding of all these really nice, well-meaning people. So that's what's going to happen. These two are going to try to sabotage their daughter's wedding while rekindling their old spark, I guess. Okay, what'd you think of Ticket to Paradise?
like I said, we don't do a lot of rom-coms, and I tend to like them. So I was going into this movie hoping that this was going to be something that would be one of those movies like The Proposal, that whenever I see that it's on, I want to watch it because it's so fun to watch for me. And I don't know that I left the theater with the same thought that that's what's going to happen. It might, it could. This could grow on me a little bit. I loved the beginning, the way that they open up by telling the story from either of George and what are their names in the movies? David and
Georgia. I don't know why they named Julia Roberts Georgia when George Clooney opposite.
David and George. They are telling what happened in their marriage from each perspective, and it's each one, of course, is filled with a ton of vitriol, and but I liked that. I liked that beginning, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really snappy and snarky, and there's going to be reason behind all of this, and I don't know. I didn't find that there was actually a really good reason for them to break up. Did you? When they delivered what actually happened, that was like, I don't know, the straw in their past broke the...
Wasn't it because they had a house and then something didn't happen with the house? I don't even remember.
And it caught on fire. The house caught on fire.
And that's why they are divorced now and they hate each other so much?
Yeah, and I was trying to make sense of that. It's sort of like something like that happens where you have this piece of land and you want to build this dream house, and you start to build it, and then suddenly halfway through or whatever, it catches on fire and you don't go back to do it. I would think that would be a time where a couple would more come together than actually fall apart. Like you would think that, I don't know, that's just my perspective, is that you would think that you would try to get through this. It's when you have those kind of things happen in your life that are big moments, you tend to, sort of circle the wagons and try to make things work. But it sounded like it was the weakest excuse that I could think of for the marriage to actually break apart. But what we really learned is that each one of them are just sort of terrible people.
Okay, good. Right? So you got that feeling while watching this as well.
Yeah.
These protagonists are awful. They're not great. And they're not it's not like an anti-hero or like a prickly fun character who are they're prickly, but we kind of love them. Not like a Bill Murray lovable asshole. It's more of just if these were real people, they'd be the most obnoxious people in the room. They're terrible.
They're super self-centered. And like I said, something like that is the reason you break up for good. Really? They go into it a little bit later that, it's the classic, she's like, oh, I had to leave my career because I had a baby and you didn't want to be the one to, help look after the baby. Well, I had to bring in the money and I was blah, blah, it's that same tired trope. And I'm like, there's tropes in rom-coms. That's what a rom-com is. But this was just, they were ugly people. They were just beautiful, ugly people.
It's funny you say it, because I don't take notes in movies, but after about the first 20 or 30 minutes, I was realizing, all right, this movie's not going to be for me, probably. So let me take some notes, and maybe I'll learn. We can make this a more academic exercise, and then I'll have something to take away from.
More satisfying for you.
First note I took was, if these people were real, they'd be so obnoxious. First one, because we were sitting in the graduation ceremony, and they're like, oh, we have to sit next to each other, grumble, 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 and they're elbowing each other. Oh, that's my armrest. It's my armrest. And then she gets on stage. Oh, hi, it's so great. They get up and stand, and everyone else just sitting there quietly, just like regular people. It's like, oh, people who think they're the main characters and they're pretty looking people. I'm like, if these were real people, they'd be so awful. Like, this is such a bad way to get me on board with our protagonists. I don't, already disliked. And then I got a chuckle with, lady saying just thankful for the house on the plane. What happened there? I don't know what that note means. Oh, the old lady sat between them. I was like, funny joke.
Oh, the one that had to sit between them on the plane?
Yeah, and then later on she comes back and kind of has an aha what she's having. Or, that's the beat that they're going for.
She comes back a couple times. I mean, well, I guess not. She comes back at the end when they get off the plane. She's there, and she reads them the riot act for a second, or I guess that was.
Oh yeah, she gets off the plane. She's pissed at the because of the flight, and then also she comes back later on the island as like a surprise character, like I'm picking up the people from the thing, and it's you. Oh
yeah, surprise.
I'm going down one by one.
Well, and then she has the boyfriend. So they wind up going when they do find out their daughter's going to marry this guy, which is really the understory of this whole thing. I mean, it's really just a character-driven piece for these two actors that really do well playing off one another, but I don't like them.
Are you talking about George and Julia?
Yeah.
I suppose their banter's fine.
Yes.
But I don't like them when they're not interesting. Like, so I don't know what the describe. Like, I don't know how to describe their characters. What do they do? The one Julia Roberts is an art critic-y lady. She's a driven business professional woman.
She's a owner. She owns a lot. I mean, and these people are obviously ridiculously rich, right? Because
they're both
an architect of note.
Okay, so he's an architect. I was trying to figure out like what he even does. Like, and his character, like her character is driven businesswoman lady. Okay, and his is they're trying to play him off like it's hard when you do George Clooney and then like he's supposed to be the schlub in comparison to her new boyfriend because he's younger and
because he's George Clooney. Yeah,
exactly. And then the new boyfriend too the young guy, the guy who's getting married to their daughter, like he again like he's so cool and like modern. And I'm like, you picking two. You have to make me think George Clooney's the everyman here. I'm like, I already hard to buy the wealthy George Clooney architect man is the everyman, and these other people. Oh, she could have done so much better. I'm like, instead of a 9.5, she could have had a 10. Oh, the poor thing. Like,
well, he is a seaweed farmer, but then they find out that he's a seaweed farmer that is selling all of his seaweed to Whole Foods. So that makes it so much better, right? Or you would think it would. But the subplot where she has this young boyfriend who winds up being the captain of the airplane, and that's what sets up this woman. You know, the airplane is not faring well in the air; it's having turbulence, and the pilot for some reason is getting the shit for this. But she has this young boyfriend, and he couldn't be stupider. He's attractive, of course, but he couldn't be more dumb and more the plot couldn't have gone exactly where I thought it was going to go with him, at some point during the movie asking her to marry him and of course she's, what does she need him for? Why does she need to be married to him? She does not need to be married to him.
Right, the first time he proposed, so it's a running joke is he proposes multiple times and things go wrong, or like something interrupts it. He bonks her on the nose, whatever, and he's proposing. The first time he proposes, the first note I wrote was, "Is Billy Lord gonna end up with the pilot?" Because I was like, oh, maybe because Billy Lord is the free-spirited friend. I was another actually note I put. I was like, doing her mom proud. Billy Lord playing the young Carrie Fisher character perfectly. The best friend with the feisty one-liners and the free spirit. Awesome, perfect.
Yeah, who's
the only character
slutty.
who I'm like, I at least know who this person resembles a real person to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, the pilot's young guy going for Julia Roberts. He's dumb. And then he's going to meet the free-spirited Billy Lord at the end, and they'll hit it off. And that'll be a nice, promising end for their arcs.
That would have been nice, actually. To do that.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it have been nice if the nice characters got together?
That would have been better, because this guy just, flops around trying to... Yeah, the next time he tries to do it, he gets bit by a snake, and then ends up in the hospital, right? Isn't that what happens?
So there's a couple of classic animal humor moments in this where you got the snake biting him, and so he goes cross-eyed and passes out, and he's in the hospital, and to get some physical comedy. And then they had it early in the movie, George Clooney getting attacked by the dolphin or whatever. So there's I thought of what's that Adam Sandler movie you like? The Here We Go or Let's Go With It. here we go with it.
Just go with it.
I thought of the scene where Nick Schwartzen's giving the Heimlich maneuver to the sheep. This is that kind of shit where they're in a pretty tropical island, and then there's an animal, and then dumb animal humor happens for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, they did it twice. One with the dolphin.
Yeah, but I don't understand. That's the whole thing. Is like all of this is just thrown at the wall, and it makes no sense. And the dolphin thing makes no sense to me. Like, I don't even understand why they went out to do the dolphin thing.
It's the same thing, but it's because you're in a pretty place and you gotta have a dolphin thing, or if you're not dolphins, you're gonna have the coral reef snorkeling, or you're gonna have the touch the shark thing. Like, you gotta have some sort of animal thing, and then the animal does the thing that attacks the person, and then that's a 10-minute part of it. These beats are predictable. It's not,
the thing is that it just highlights the fact that this movie has a really, really tired plot. And maybe this is the reason that there aren't rom-coms anymore, because this was okay 20 years ago. I just don't feel like it, I don't feel like there's an audience for it right now. I mean,
I would agree with you, except I just came back. I saw this right before we're recording. Sure, this is a Saturday, so it's a busier day, but there were, 20 people in my theater. It wasn't empty, and this movie's made double its budget in opening weekend. So,
I think that's what happens when you have a George Clooney. That's the thing, is you get pulled in by the George Clooney, Julia Robertness of it, and you're hoping for something brilliant like an Ocean's 11, which is great, and they're great in. But you wind up getting something else entirely, and it's not satisfying because the characters are not likable. Like, as characters interacting with one another, there are times when the banter is really fun, and the fact they can talk over one another probably better than other people I've seen, but that's all this is. And and nothing that they do advances anything, because there's nothing to advance here. It's just people behaving badly. I mean, who goes out to actually sabotage their kid's wedding? No, you go out, if you're gonna go out there, you're gonna go out there and be like, listen, this ain't happening. You're wrong. You're not gonna go out there and hope that you doing these crazy little things is gonna stop her from marrying this person.
So this is another problem with the characters being like the lovable assholes, which they do not pull off. Like, I don't like these two people, because Caitlin Dever's character seems perfectly nice. The boyfriend, perfectly nice. The father, perfectly nice. The 150 relatives. I made a note of that. I'm like, I hope for some good jokes with this. That'd be funny. You're talking to one relative, and you're like, oh, let's get all the uncles, and there's 23 uncles that show up. That's right. You can mine some comedy out of that. They scarcely,
and they're all named Katut. They're all named the same.
Sure, something like that, or name a funny name that George Clooney has trouble pronouncing, and then he looks like a fumbling fool. They didn't even do stuff like that. They missed so many opportunities like that. Earlier on, I pointed out there's a point he's like, oh, trying to bond with soccer. You like football, and he's like, I don't like that. I never liked the sport. And I'm like, oh, perfect. At the end, they can show him playing football with the with the other. No, why add that line then if you're not going to give it the payoff later? That, again,
there's no follow through.
It's a $60 million movie. These are not expensive things I'm asking for. It's not a lack of budget that you can't have these couple of small creative things that I'm thinking of sitting in the theater while watching this. I'm not part of the writing team. I'm not part of the production. These are small, cheap
and this director
changes.
guy is a writer. I think he writes movies. So
yeah, and he makes stuff you like. So you try to explain to me if this is this guy Ol Parker is the director and co-writer of this, who's known for writing the Exotic Marigold Hotel movies, and
which I love.
Yes, you do. So, and then he wrote and directed Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, the sequel. Okay, well, so...
But yes, I do love the best Exotic Marigold Hotel movies, so...
Yes, those seem right up your alley. I see the cover with the 5 different British people with the Wes Anderson colors, and I'm like, this is a very Mama K looking movie. And so
is it the actors then? No?
I see Bill Nighy on the cover with his arms crossed and his kind of smirk. I'm like, oh, well, okay, he's gonna like that.
No, my point is it because of the actors in this movie? Is that why? But I really think the script is bad. I think I think.
But he co-wrote it. It's the same guy who, made, and you may not like Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, but that's a generally well-received movie. I think it's.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So what's the appeal here? Because I haven't seen that's not my wheelhouse. And when I like rom-coms, and it's not just black comedy rom-coms. There are conventional mainstream rom-coms that I enjoy. But
really,
I go. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is kind of what I go to, is kind of my benchmark. If I say what's a mainstream rom-com from the past 20 years that's like a B plus. That's super accessible, lots of mainstream stars, kind of broad jokes, but really works. That's my go-to. Close seconds are Knocked Up.
Those are very different rom-coms. Okay, these are very different rom-coms than what I'm used to, though. So, I'm used to the When Harry Met Sally rom-coms and. Okay,
this is worse than that, though, too. That's this is worse than A Sleepless in Seattle or a You've Got Mail. Again, I've never finished You Got Mail because it's painful, but
I've never seen either one of those movies, honestly, even though they're the quintessential.
My point is here, I went into this, I was not expecting Eternal Sunshine or Her. I wasn't even expecting the Before Sunrise Sunset level quality. I was expecting Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Those are just romantic. Yeah.
Yes, I know those are. I'm just saying those are some romantic comedies that I like. Obviously, they're more snobby than the pretend. But I'm not going. I always said I go into rom-coms hoping for Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That's my benchmark for the past 20 years because it's just it works, and it's that level. It's that level. It's that type of broad, big budget faces in a tropical island comedy.
I feel like the ones you're talking about, though, are more just blanket comedies, and they're not what I would call a rom-com.
Why do you... I disagree, first of all, what do you mean? Yeah.
What's the other one you said besides Forgetting Sarah Marshall? What was the...
The other two, backups are Knocked Up, and then I'll give you I Love You Man, because that's kind of a bromance. Okay, I don't know I Love You. Romantic comedy.
I don't know I Love You Man.
Nicole and I got to do an episode on that because we both love that movie. Maybe it's just Jason Segel. Maybe just Jason Segel needs to be in the romantic comedy for it to work.
Yeah, and when you say Jason Segel and you say romance, I don't buy it. It's a comedy with maybe a romantic bent, but it's not a rom-com. Rom-coms have to be romantic to start with and be funny. You're talking about movies that are funny.
No, I disagree. A rom-com should be comedic and then have romance in it. It's a romantic comedy, not a comedic romance.
No.
I'm just saying, if you're saying your definition's right, then the naming convention's what's wrong. Because a romantic comedy implies a comedy that's romantic. A comedic romance would imply a romance that has comedy elements, which seems to be more of what you're describing.
No, see, I think of a rom-com is When Harry Met Sally, and that's a romance with comedy in it. So
sure, so fine. Well, that'll be a Com-Rom then.
Okay, we'll call them. They misnamed them back in the late 80s.
They really did. This is not because if the focus is the romance, then it should be called a romance with comedic elements, not a comedy with romantic elements.
Because if the focus is a romance, it can't have Jason Segel in it. So yeah, we got to
disagree. Disagree again, but all right.
100%.
Why do they have to be? Why do they have to be conventionally the most hot people? Why can't they be the quorky best friends in the main characters? Why's it gotta be Julia Roberts and George Clooney?
I don't mind quirky best friends. I mean, Adam Sandler's a quirky dude, but I'm not a Jason Segel fan. So
Adam Sandler's a hack fraud, but we don't have.
Well, he's not a romantic leading man. I mean,
no, his movies are soulless cash grabs, unlike anything I've ever seen. No, this is not this is not like a what's the one we just said? Go with it or whatever.
Just go with it.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't. I mean, this is equally as soulless, but this seems more transparent to me. That just seems like a con. But again, I don't have to.
This is more transparent than that. But this is also just. I feel this is slapdash. And when you're talking about a cash grab, this totally feels like a cash grab to me. Because if you would have put two other people in there that were not George Clooney and Julia Roberts, I don't know that anybody would go see this movie.
But
why would you go see this movie?
But this seems more honest than those where like this is like, yeah, you're literally going to see Julia Roberts and George Clooney smile at each other and say and like bicker, and like that's all you're going for. Like I was the only person in the theater, again, kind of like a lot of things we're doing on the show. Actually, I was the youngest. And there's a lot of old people there, and they guffawed, were falling over themselves over the very hacky, mediocre one-liners that George Clooney was dribbling out, like audible laughs.
We were the oldest people in the theater, and until one guy walked in when the movie was already going, Lloyd was the only man in the theater. It was a bunch of girls. Probably there was like, I want to say 20-something, a group of 20-something girls, and then a group of probably maybe 30-something girls there. And yeah, that's what they were watching.
It was old couples, all old couples.
And they were laughing, at parts. There was a couple parts I laughed at. I don't remember what they were, but I think it was an uncomfortable laugh as opposed to like, a laugh because something was really funny.
Oh, you know what? Nicole and I just did Bros, which is a gay romantic comedy. Extremely traditional romantic comedy beats here. Though. Yeah, like Nicole and I actually talked about how strange, how conventional of a rom-com that was, or Com-Rom as we're saying. That is much better than this as well. Again, that is so much funnier, and like even though it's just as formulaic and predictable, it's just so much more enjoyable.
Having seen this, I could 100% tell you that I'm going to enjoy Bros more when I see it than this. I have to think. Because I did want to see that. It just didn't show up here. So,
but again, like I've named many rom-coms here, and that I think are perfectly broad and perfectly accessible and available to all. And so I just don't see why we have to do. And if you want to see George Clooney and Julia Roberts, I mean, they have tons of movies that are better than this. If you want to see, there's tons of movies with the two of them together that are better than this. So
why aren't they doing other stuff that I want to watch then? Because it's I don't feel like there's anything.
But this,
I wanted to see them do this. It's made so much
money already. I thought these didn't make money anymore.
What?
I thought these movies didn't make money anymore. The mid-budget, the Matthew McConaughey early 2000s movies, like those aren't like I didn't think there was still a market for that. I thought that had gotten moved to Netflix at this point. I thought we were past this.
Well, that's what I was.
This made $115 million opening weekend. That's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Australia had to have a big part of that. There is. I mean,
they don't even have enough people. That's a lot of money for a movie like this these days. Like this should have made nothing.
Yeah. People want to see Julia Roberts and George Clooney in a movie in a romantic situation like they were in Ocean's 11, and that's not this movie. I'm sorry. Also, this we're in Fiji, which we're in Fiji, right? Is that where we went?
No, we're in
I'm confused. Bali, sorry.
Bali.
We're in Bali, and the humidity there is insane, and Julia Roberts' hair is just on point in every single frame of this movie. And they have to sleep one night in the jungle. So there's we have to believe these people are just 100% gorgeous 100% of the time, and I wasn't buying that at all. So I don't know. I needed it to be a little more realistic. There were so many weird things about this. Like I liked the beer pong scene. So they go out one night because now the George Clooney and the character that Caitlin Deaver's going to marry are having this little,
yes, these
fight
two
about
very successful 50 and 60-year-old people are stealing wedding rings from their daughter and future son-in-law because they're so petty and small that they want to stop this thing at any cost. And again, like Nicole and I just got married, and I'm just like, I know I have to suspend a little. I'm willing to suspend belief in movies, but like you were presenting this as it's supposed to be a real world, right? Like this isn't like crazy weird world where like people don't make any sense. Like this is supposed to be relatable, right?
No, this is
these people don't act in relatable ways.
But these people are not.
What is this supposed to be? What is this world? I don't understand. When you present a sci-fi world, when you present a zombie movie, when you present a scenario, and things are different than our actual world, I understand what's happening because of the rules. What are you saying?
Let me explain the rules a little bit. Then maybe we could talk this out. We can figure this out. We talked already about how these people are unlikable, or at least to both of us. To both of us, but
yes.
So
anyone,
them doing
this
this,
not be pleasant?
Them doing the things that they do to try to keep this couple from getting married are actually completely in character if you think about it. Like they're actually,
yes.
It's completely in character for them to do this. So saying that it's unbelievable, that goes against.
I don't believe them from Jump Street. I don't believe when they stand up and they cheer after bickering over an armrest and they get up and cheer.
Oh, you don't believe these people exist? Is that what you're saying?
No, they're not even real. Like I
don't know.
I've never met anyone like this.
These people exist. I mean, these people are Karens. I mean, they totally exist.
So why are they pretending they exist? They don't, but pretending they do. Why are they the protagonists of this movie?
Because they're George Clooney and Julia Roberts.
But why aren't George Clooney and Julia Roberts likable people? Why were they made to be these unbelievable, over-the-top Karens who don't exist?
I don't know why. Because if anybody else played them, this movie, I mean, it's already, critically, it's
But we're working backwards
here.
We're starting with George Clooney and Julia Roberts and building around them. Why do we have to... It's what I don't understand about making something so, boring and blah. Like, you don't have to. It's not a lot of it's not extra work to make it a little better. It's not extra work to make it a little better and make it more...
Or they would.
No, I don't think it is. I really don't. I think it's it seems so cynical. It really does. It seems like a pure, I went to work I'm the director and I'm clocking in 8 to 5. This is supposed to be your passion. If you want an 8 to 5 job, go sit in the desk. This is you're making a thing for everybody. What's a great movie that was a big crowd pleaser from earlier this year? Top Gun Maverick. And what did I say about that? It's extremely stupid, extremely simple, perfect action. It's exactly what you want. It's not a movie made for me. It's not a highfalutin, fancy movie that I love because of all its filmmaking abilities. It's a big bucket of popcorn, and it's exactly what you bought your ticket for. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for forgetting Sarah Marshall. I'm not asking for the world here. My demands are reasonable.
Well, you can't be demanding because this is entertainment and not everything is going to entertain you. Apparently, you are not the masses. So, I mean, not that you didn't know that already. So
it's not about me not being the masses. It's about you can make something for the masses that's of high quality, like Top Gun Maverick. Or you can make or they keep saying forgetting Sarah Marshall, but really you don't need to make my fancy highfalutin movie to make a good popcorn flick.
Yeah, I can't explain why they didn't do it in this and why I don't know whether it just didn't work. It felt there was a lot of choppiness to it. There were things that, I mean, I guess maybe we were not picking up enough on these two actually really, were two people that were, again, very competitive the whole time, not just in this movie. They were competitive about everything. They couldn't have, they had to switch rooms because one room was supposedly better. They had to talk about how competitive they were about bringing their daughter up. There was a poignant moment, I thought, a little bit.
Seaweed picking fight. Yeah.
The best seaweed picking. That was so annoying to me. I couldn't even...
I know. I'm just sitting there watching these two 20-somethings from the short. The guy who runs the seaweed farm is a fucking young kid, and he's watching these two old white people fucking scrapping it all over his. It's annoying.
All I could think of was they are wrecking the seaweed farm.
I know, and these people who are around the protagonists, the daughter, the son-in-law, the son-in-law's family, they're all just fucking regular nice people. Like, they're not interesting, but they're nice. Why do we have to follow like the mean people who are mean-spirited? And what's the lesson at the end?
Because they're the ones that cost so much money for the movie to be made. Maybe everybody just wanted to go to Australia. Maybe it was probably,
well, of course, that's the real reason.
Post-COVID, and everybody just wanted to go and have a good time. And but I was about to make a point, and now it's gone. So I have to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. A poignant part in the movie is when they have their big argument, and by the little dipping swimming pool that each person has at their own little casita there, which is lovely, I have to say. When they argue about what it was like to parent this child alone, because that's the choice they made, and both of them think that they made the biggest sacrifice. And it's interesting because they're both right. Like, they both, the point of view that they both came from is probably exactly right. She says, he says, you got to spend all the time with her. I got one, every other weekend and Wednesdays or whatever. I forget what it was. And then she said, well, I spent all of that time, so I had to be the real parent. You got to do all the fun stuff. And it's like, this is so classic. And that's actually poignant. That's what happens when, children of divorce. It's shocking that she's not more, that she's done as well as she has, I guess.
No, the part that I saw that, but I saw it from her point of view when they're in the like jungly kind of part and it's raining and Julia like she's like, you guys are just doing this because you're not raising me. You're just trying to stop the younger yous from making the same mistakes you didn't want to make. And George Clooney's like, that's not I thought why. And Julia Roberts like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing because I regretted doing that. And then Caitlin Dever is like, well, like I'm part of that. Like, and right there I was like, oh, I kind of get divorced kids. I never understood it myself. It's not my life experience, but I was like, oh, I see what you mean there. Like the parents are so miserable. They're so mad at each other and like they regret everything. And like, you're technically part of that regret because but like, obviously you're not, but like you kind of are like,
I don't think that. No, I didn't take that scene that way at all. I took that her.
No, but that's how Caitlin Dever feels, and that's how I like. That's the interesting. You relate with the parent character, and I relate with the child character here. But I'm like, I understand what she's feeling there. I'm like, yeah, like that's how it feels. Even if that's not what she means, you're smart. You read between the lines. If she had made the choice.
She's also now almost 25 years old, and this is the first time she's had that thought. Then they've made her feel really loved. If it took this long for her to think that, I think
it's coming out now. It's coming out now because it's the marriage.
I don't know. I think the look on her face was more of a like realization. She was shocked at that. She was not. I don't think she was. I don't think it was like, oh yeah, well, obviously you mean me. I think it was more like, oh my God, I am also part of this mistake,
Oh, I think she realized it right there, but it was more of a connecting of dots rather than like, I've never felt this before.
Then she's not as smart as we think she is.
Who, Caitlin Dever?
Yes.
Why? She seems fine.
Because I think divorced kids always think that there's an element of an element of them that is part of the reason why their parents got divorced.
But the thing about all that is they're really not wrong. Like they aren't like, sure, like it's not their fault, but had they not existed, like ... that can be factually true while also it literally not being the person's fault. It can be your fault for having someone and not having the person who has been born be at fault, but
yeah, but it's not actually it's not actually the person, it's the circumstance.
But it doesn't feel any better if you're that person, does it? Like, well,
I mean, if you're smart, if you're this age, you should think about it the way that it actually is, which is if a child was the problem, it's not because I mean, sometimes it is because of the child, but it's not because of you being the child. It's just the child, whatever,
But that's an unrealistic child. But that's an expectation you're putting on them. Like, it's not like that. That's not like a natural thing to think. Like, you think you're the fault if
yeah, I guess so. I mean, people generally think, they all have that that ego in their voice that talks to them and tells, that everybody tells them.
Yeah,
I just read something recently that
people are more self-centered than they should be.
Yeah, you're going to think this is not related, but it is. I just read something recently that people are, how does it go? You're 20% more attractive to people than you think you are.
Huh. Because okay, elaborate why this is related.
It's related because your brain talks to you and tells you the things that are terrible. Like, it's constantly, the brain can be as an ego can be a pretty big enemy. So it's like, that's why I'm thinking if she's a smart girl, she's already encountered this in her life. This is not a revelation at this point. This is something that she's had to have thought of before. I don't think these two really self-centered people, as much as they love her and everything, could ever love her more than they love themselves.
And at the end, they get married after a back and forth. And
yes,
the growth, the arc of our main characters is that they allow it. They give a shrug of a blessing, and then
yes,
they truly, it's almost the equivalent of I know exactly what it's equivalent of. Remember Uncle Frank? Remember when we recorded that Uncle Frank maybe a year ago? It had Paul Bettany, and he was a gay man, and he was closeted.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then he had a boyfriend. He lived his whole life in New York, and then his niece comes and oh, come back home, and I don't want to go home to my homophobic family. And then he goes home, and they're homophobic, but then they find out Frank's gay, and then they accept him. And Steve Zahn's character says something like, "Hey, I know you're gay, and I don't agree with it, but you know what? No problem." I got the same kind of feeling at the end of the movie as that, where it's I don't agree with your thing still. You're still making a dumb choice that I never would have made, and you're going to mess your life up, but you know what? You're my daughter, so I trust you. It doesn't feel like I finally really want to let you succeed. It feels more like I'm such a big man and woman for overcoming my hang-ups that I'm allowing you to continue to do this, and I'm okay with it. Oh, how gracious of me. That is what it feels like at the end of this movie.
I don't know. I didn't feel that. I felt like it was more, because what happens at the end is is it the other dad, or who's the one who said, no, it's the husband that says, we can't be married unless we get your blessing, because
again, another terrible choice for him.
Sit well with me. Yeah, it's
that's the worst part of his character. And Caitlin never returns her. You didn't say anything to me. If
right.
Again, I just got married.
Right.
If Nicole said something like that, I'd be like, "What the fuck did you just do? That was not planned. Yeah. We didn't talk about that. That's fucking. Why would you say that right now?"
This is actually problematic for their journey. I mean, this is problematic for their marriage. If this
all
is
of
how
this
they're going to
is
behave in it.
This is what I'm saying. These people aren't reacting like real people, and if these are, or if they are, they're not good. They're not good people. They're anywhere from,
or they're not. Yeah, or they're not. They're not. I mean, it's totally against Caitlin Deaver's character to be accepting of this. You know what I mean? It's weird. The whole thing is weird.
Well, and then that's another thing at the end is it's the shoehorned in. They're going away. They're gonna leave, and then Joy Roberts says whatever she said back when they were younger that was a spark of spontaneity or whatever the fuck she said.
Right.
And George Clooney's like, "What? Really? Are we gonna do it? I can't believe we're gonna do it. Are we gonna do it?" And then they jump off the back of the boat with a freeze frame, implying they're going to leave their high-paying jobs, get back together, and live on the island and become seaweed farmers.
No. That's what we think that's what they make us believe is going to happen, right? It can't happen.
56% of critics. That's over half. Say good, thumbs up, 3-star or better. 80-something% of audiences. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like when I watch movies like this, I'm taking crazy pills because I've been busy. Our schedule has been erratic lately. I've been busy. I haven't been able to watch the movies I wanted to watch. We haven't been able to stick to the schedule as originally planned. Yeah. We roll with the punches. Everything's fine. But, I go and see... I haven't seen a movie in theaters for a few weeks. I go and see this, and it's so nice to be back in the theater. I love sitting in the seat with the drink and the previews, and I love the atmosphere. I like listening to the old people laugh at the jokes I don't find funny. It's still a nice time, because I like movies, but this is just so fucking lame.
It's lame, and I'm worried that if I see it again, I'm going to start liking it more.
Please don't do that to yourself. There's no reason to.
I know, but the elements are the things. Like, it's the Julia Roberts, George Clooney. Also, they're in Bali. Bali is on my bucket list. I mean, literally the place they're staying, probably on my bucket list, even though it's in Australia. Even though it probably doesn't exist. It's probably a film set. But yeah, this is like, I don't know. I'm afraid this is going to be one of those really mediocre to poor movies that I'm going to watch again and again.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that, because I was about to ask, are you going to recommend Ticket to Paradise?
Oh, gosh. See, I'm looking monetarily here. Is it worth the $14 or whatever?
This was 14.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to pay for movies here. So,
so wait. Are you saying if this was streaming, it would be a no-brainer recommend?
Yeah, if this was
this is going to be streaming in 45 days.
I was just going to say when 40. Okay, let me. That's what's going to be my recommend then. In 45 days, watch this movie for free on your streaming service.
That's terrible.
Because it makes you. Because it's beautiful.
No,
it's a beautiful movie. It's beautiful
not.
clothes.
It does not.
Wait. Oh no. God! Before we end, I have one thing I wanted to talk about, because it really got me in the movie. The bar scene.
No, it didn't. It couldn't have.
The bar scene with Billy Lord and George Clooney was gross. I thought there was going to be something going on romantically there. And
you think they're going to hook up?
Yeah. And I was freaking out for a minute. Like, I don't like this, and I don't like where it's going, and I don't like that it was in the movie. It didn't, her character, while I really wanted for her to do something in this movie, did nothing in this movie. But except for that scene, and I was cringing in the theater thinking something was going to happen. So, anyway.
I had one joke I liked. Do you think in the movie of all the jokes, I'll put in quotations as a mixed bag, there's one that I audibly laughed. I smiled every once in a while, but... Okay,
tell me what it was, because I laughed out loud. It might have been that.
You laughed out loud? I laughed one time, and not like out loud, I did like kind of like that level. It was when... he asked, did you that boat looks kind of like it's floating away, like, did you tie it? He's like, yeah, I tied it to a log. And then they look down, and then you see the log floating in the water as the boat is also floating away. Good visual gag. That's fucking that. See, that's what I'm like. There you go. That's like that's not even great. That's not amazingly clever. It's not expensive. It's not time consuming. Just that level. That's the only level I'm looking to achieve here. We're not pulling any hammies trying to get there.
They didn't do it.
They could have, though. It's such low effort. It's such low effort to just turn it up a little bit.
They know something we don't know, Brennan, though, because it made the money, and that's all that matters. So they're good to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I can't.
I'm recommending.
No, I don't recommend this. Did I say it? No, I don't recommend this.
Yeah, I know you don't.
This lives in the I don't. This is not why movies should be made. This is what TV was supposed to be. I don't like that TV is prestige now, and that movies have become this. I don't like this. I don't
That's
like
what's happening.
That 6-part minis. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like that 6-part miniseries are the new way to create prestige viewing, sight and sound experiences. Storytelling was meant for an hour and a half to 2 hours. It was not meant for 5.5 hours with commercials and previously on.
I don't know, man. I think
I do not like the ecosystem.
I think that you're on the wrong side of this now.
The one good thing about a movie like this is that it keeps theaters running, and I do want to keep theaters running.
That's
even
true.
if it's got to be subsidized by stuff like this. So that I'll think of it like that. This is a subsidy so that I can go and see a movie like Barbarian, a really great horror movie that I saw that was completely empty, and it was a very awesome movie. And no one else saw it, except for people who care. And Barbarian. I recommend Barbarian. I don't recommend Ticket to Paradise. So one recommend, one non-recommend for this. And I would like to get to some of the other movies, but schedules are weird right now. We're going to do our best to keep something coming out. We want to keep some reviews coming. Yeah. So
sorry it was this.
Hanging. You know, when we started the show, almost 4 years ago now, I think all four of us had different jobs. Like, we all had very different things going on in our day-to-day lives. So things have picked up. Things are different in our day-to-day lives, so we can't dedicate the same.
We're doing the best we can, man.
If you have things to recommend to us, though, if you have things to recommend to us, Films with the Women in My Life on Facebook. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm Brennan_podhost. And you can email the show, filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Thanks for being on Ticket to Paradise, Mama K.
Namaste.
Until next time, this is Brennan signing off, saying thanks for listening and enjoy your movies.
Thanks for listening to Films with the Women in My Life. If you enjoyed being a listener in our life, please rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Keep up with the latest from the show on Instagram at Brennan_podhost, on Facebook at Films with the Women in My Life, and on Twitter at FilmsWomenPod. Finally, you can email the show with questions and suggestions at filmswiththewomen@gmail.com. Original music for the show was created by Ian Burke and Chris Iwanek. Original artwork created by Nicole D'Alessio. This show is produced by Brennan Snyder. Thank you again for listening and enjoy your movies.